Hey, Chris.
There we go. Hi. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Sorry to I had just.
I'm going to move my webcam to my other monitor. That works a little bit better.
Perfect.
All right.
Sorry, I had to reboot it for some silly reason. So.
Yeah, no worries.
Got kicked off. Sharing. I was just going to test it since we just have these stages. Yeah. Cool. Oh, yeah.
We'll see if the do not disturb sign on my door actually works.
Well, that's pretty nice. We don't have that kind of a feature in our office, not at all.
It consists of just a whiteboard and writing do not disturb on that.
Hey, Meg, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi.
Hi. How do I get my face to show again?
For me, there's a start video button at the bottom left.
Okay. There we go. Okay. Here I am.
Good deal. How you doing? How's your weekend, Meg?
It was good. I got to see Obama.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really cool rally.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a. I'm ready for election day to be over.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
I second that.
Hmm. Oh, we almost got it. Right. And I don't think that other number is a panelist either. You have that number. We're just waiting for a couple of people to join. So I'm going to mute myself. Hey, Kip.
Hi. Oh, good. I got it to work.
That's the hardest part. You guys, we're home free. Okay, and there's Kara getting logged in. So we're almost all here. Hey, Kip. I don't have vendor forms from you. Did I miss those or did you send them?
I don't know that I ever filled any out.
Okay. Would you like to accept the stipend?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay. I'll send this to you again, and as soon as you have a
That'd be
minute,
great.
come back to me. Okay.
You know, I think that you included those when you sent me the conflict of interest stuff, and I just was so concerned about getting that to you quickly that I missed the other things. So
No worries. Thank you for doing that. And Chris, I have down that you're declining the stipend. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, great. So Meg, I have something on file for you. It's an account with Chase. Do you
Yeah.
think that would be the right one?
Yeah, I sent you all 3 of the forms,
Oh, okay, great. I must have just missed that.
but I'll
Great.
double check.
No, there's something that's approved and ready for you to pay you. So you don't have to worry about it. I just wanted to make sure that that was the right
It
account.
is Chase. Okay, do I have to do something?
Nope. Mm-mm.
Okay, thanks.
But I just let him in. I'm not sure. Let's see. It's possible that he also. Let's see. Hi, Kara. You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Great. Hi, Ken. Can you hear me? I can't hear you, Ken. If you dialed in with your phone, will you just chat me what the phone number is? I'm not sure exactly who in the waiting room right now might be you. Okay, well, we'll get started really soon. Ken is, I'm sure, figuring out the audio. How is my sound in here? I'm in kind of an echoey room. Can you guys hear me okay?
good.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm gonna mute myself and make a phone call. I'll be right back.
Hello?
Hi, Alberta, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Oh, good deal. I'm sorry I didn't recognize your phone number when you were in the waiting room there. So
Oh, that's okay. Not a problem.
you're with us? Okay. We are waiting on one more panelist to join by audio. So Chapin, here's his phone number. Will you give him a call and help him out? Okay. Let me go over just a couple of things here before we get started. Alberta, do you have your facilitator script and kind of know where you're going with that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, I just have a few things to review together. Chapin is here. Chapin, you probably can't see her, but she's just sitting here next to me. She's on her own account computer, and she's going to be all things technical support. So if you look in your in Zoom where you can see the participants, Chapin's in there as technical support. So you can give her a call or chat her. I guess you don't have her phone number, but you can chat her if you have any problems, and she'll get it sorted out. If I notice that something is off, then I'll just have her on it. Like right now, she's working on something for Ken. So we'll get started in about 10 minutes, the official public meeting. But before we do, oh great, let me go over just a couple of things. Actually, this is perfect timing. Louis, do you want to come sit next to me and say something?
Sure.
So here's all of our panelists on the line. Alberta's also on the line.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I see Kip and Meg and Chris and maybe more.
Yeah.
Kara.
Hi there, I can see you.
I just wanted to stop by virtually here and just thank you all for your service to your fellow Hoosiers. We greatly appreciate the time and the effort you put into reviewing these applications. As you probably know, all of our grant determinations are made by independent panels, and this program is no exception. So we so appreciate you applying your expertise to this on behalf of your fellow citizens. You're in great hands. Alberta is our commissioner from Lafayette, and she is on the line here. She's here to make sure that things run smoothly, and she's also obviously a trustee, which is great to have her oversight of the process. And you're also in the hands of Anna here online as far as our program officer. This is a little bit not unusual, but this is the first time we've done a panel completely online. So y'all have to tell us how you like this or not. So thanks so much for your time and your efforts.
You're welcome, thank you.
Thank you, Louis.
I admitted somebody with a 574 area code into the room. Is that Ken?
That's South Bend, so that's gotta be Ken.
That's what I thought. Okay, Ken, I see you trying to unmute and mute yourself. I'm gonna unmute this phone line. It might be you, Ken. Hi, is that Ken?
Can you hear me now? This is Ken.
Echo.
There is some feedback. So I'm just gonna try. I think Ken, I'm just gonna tell you this is probably the problem. If you have your computer microphone on and you are also on the phone, then you'll get terrible feedback. So I have manually muted both, and now I'm gonna unmute your phone. So
Okay.
hey.
Okay.
Still hearing some bad feedback. So I think Ken, now mute your audio on your computer, like the volume, not the microphone, the actual audio. That might also be causing feedback. I'm gonna unmute you now. Are you there?
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Okay. Well, Chapin, could you get that figured out? Ken, we will get it. We'll get it figured out. It'll be all fine. Sorry for the problems, but Chapin might give you a call, or she might be chatting you. She'll help you with that. Okay, everybody else, let's go over a couple of things. Thank you so much for all the time and effort you've already put into this. I know it's a big deal, and I know you've put a lot of mental energy into it. Thank you. This is very important. We will just go ahead and do some introductions. And then we will actually do them again once the public meeting gets started for the record. So let's get to know each other a little bit. Meg, will you start us off? Tell us where you're from and what your work is, maybe.
I am from Gary, Indiana, and I manage a nonprofit arts organization whose mission is to bring about economic development through the arts. And we have been in existence for about 8 years. I've been there for 4.
Great, thank you. Kara?
My name is Kara Wood. I have for the last 2 years worked for the City of South Bend in the Experience Division, which is a part of Venues, Parks, and Arts. And our mission at Venues, Parks, and Arts is to inspire a more livable South Bend for all, connecting us to emotionally engaging experiences and to one another. So our ultimate goal is that we reach every South Bend resident with some sort of positive engagement at least once a year. So as the director of events, our events are a lot of the outreach into our community are certainly a good portion of that. So yeah, pretty hands-on.
Thanks, Kara. Chris?
Yeah, hi, my name is Chris Crowley. I'm the Director of Museum Experiences at Conner Prairie. I've been here for about 7 years. So in this role, I work with a fantastic team here to help oversee the various interpretive and programmatic experiences we have at the museum.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, Kip?
Hi, my name is Kip Norman, and I'm living in Indianapolis, and I've spent about 30 years working in historic preservation and housing reform for various not-for-profits and for the city of Indianapolis as an architectural reviewer or technical advisor on restoration projects. But more recently, I've become just a full-time studio artist. I have a studio at the Harrison Center for the Arts, and I combine my love of all things historic with an interest in the visual arts. So I do sculpture and assemblage, and I work on commissions in public spaces and restaurants and office buildings. So my background is in history and art.
Thanks, Kip. I think Ken is still working on a couple of things, but he'll join us soon. No, that's it's Kay Garcia. And Alberta, will you introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Alberta Barker, and I'm a commissioner with the Indiana Arts Commission from Lafayette.
Thanks, Alberta. So Alberta will be our panel facilitator today. She's going to move us through the applications, keep us going in a timely manner. So I will not really be part of the conversation for the most part. Alberta will be kind of your prompter. However, I'll jump in to answer any process-related questions or anything clarifying about how you should be reviewing things. I might also just jump in to remind you to keep your comments focused around the criteria, right? So we have 2 hours to complete all these reviews. I think that's plenty of time. I will be surprised if we use all of it. But what you have in front of you today is hopefully you have your online system pulled up so that you can kind of have it in the applications in the front of your mind as you're providing feedback. You should probably also have the reader list in front of you. I emailed that to you again today, just as a refresher. All these applications that were in front of you are eligible. I've reviewed just basic eligibility, but you guys again are the people who are looking most closely at this. So if you have, I didn't get any major problems or questions in the time that you had to review it, so we will consider all of them eligible today. But if there are elements of the application that you feel like don't make it eligible, we'll just go ahead and go through the review, and then there is an opportunity for folks to make minor adjustments to their project if they are funded. But you should be scoring scoring these applications based on what you see today, as it is. So just a refresher, what we'll do today, we're going to go through the reader list in the order that they're appearing there. And what you're going to do is that if you're the first reader on the reader list, you're going to just take like 2, 3, 4 minutes to hit the high points. You're not reviewing the whole, you're not summarizing the whole application. You're just giving your feedback on what you felt like was strong, how it did meet the review criteria, or what could be stronger. The ways that you suggest that they, the ways that you suggest that this application could be made stronger fit more closely to the criteria, okay? So again, you don't need to summarize everything. You can bring up the things that you feel like are important. The second reader will follow up and cover anything that you didn't already talk about that they feel is important. If it's something that they disagree with, we encourage you guys to bring up all points of the conversation. If you missed something that the second reader brought up, that's a great time to do that. Okay, so there are 5, 6 sets of eyes on this application, so it should get a full review.
So
Then after the first,
sorry,
go ahead.
should we only comment if we are the first or second reader?
No, sorry. If you are the first or second reader, then after the second reader is finished, anybody on the panel can add the same comments, things that have not already been covered, something you disagree with or see differently. Okay? Any questions about that process, first and second reader? Okay, so this is not a consensus building process, so we don't all have to agree in this. Your scores will speak for you. We are not talking about scores in this meeting. I don't want you to say any numbers. I don't want you to say something like, this one scored really high for me, or gosh, I don't want this one to be funded. Let the numbers speak for you. I just want to hear your feedback, ways it was strong, or ways you suggest to the applicant that it could be stronger. So if you are, remember that if you gave an application below a 75, you're communicating to us that you don't recommend it for public funding according to, those criteria. So one final reminder to be really respectful and constructive in both your written and your verbal comments. So just think about how, maybe pretend that person is sitting across from you. There are already 8 people who are waiting to hear your comments online. So they totally could be in front of you. And I'm not saying that you have to say only positive things. It's just about phrasing it up to be constructive, to give them advice, right? It can be it can be a hard place to be on the other side of that, to not be able to bring your voice into the conversation again to make suggestions, okay? And remember to stick to the criteria. So an applicant could appeal a decision if there are grounds for it. And one of the grounds for an appeal is that a panelist brought in a different, something that was not part of the criteria. So you guys have already been doing that because that's the only way that you can record your scores. I've outlined exactly what the criteria are. So remember in your comments to stick to those things that are in the criteria as well. The point of this whole process is to move folks forward. We want them to be more ready to do this, whether they're funded or not, right? And then just a quick reminder that artistic quality, this is always hard to do in any kind of project, any kind of grant panel or fellowship, is not about selecting what is your cup of tea necessarily, but you want to see that they have those points in the criteria, the ability or the support to carry out what they are proposing. What questions do you have?
Is there a way to see I don't know how to split my screen so I can see the grant application website as well as the Zoom website. So if I switch to the grant application, do you still see me?
Yes.
So if okay, so I've done that now. I can't see you, but you can see me?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure can. Yep, everything stays the same.
Okay.
Close out that window, okay?
Okay.
How are we doing? Ken, can you hear me? Can't hear you yet. Any other questions? Okay, remember to keep yourself on mute unless you're speaking. There's always background noise, no matter how quiet you think you're being.
Do I really have to do that? Because I'm having trouble switching back and forth from different things. So.
Okay, I might mute you if I hear background noise coming from you. So just keep
Mute
that in
me
mind.
all you want.
Okay.
Don't
Great.
want us. Okay.
I think, yeah, okay. So sorry about this, guys. I don't want to start without Ken, so we're just going to give him a couple more minutes to get the sound on. I'm just going to mute myself so we can sort through a couple things here. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, okay.
The other thing I forgot to mention is if you have a conflict of interest, I'm going to remove you from the room and put you back in the waiting room for a second. So Kip, when Alberta, you're going to kick off the public meeting, and then you'll tell us, you know, that Kip has a conflict of interest, and then Kip, I'll just put you in the waiting room, and when we're done, I'll let you back in. So you'll just see like a IAC logo for a little bit until we're done.
Okay.
Okay. Ann, are you in the room? There's a 574 number that's muted. I feel like we're so close, guys. We're almost there. No, I can't hear him there. Okay. Okay. If Ken is not able to join in the next couple of minutes, what will happen if he's not able to join before he is a first or second reader? The second reader, where he is a first reader, the second reader will become the first reader. So for example, on number 2, Brick Street Poetry, he is a first reader, and Kip, you're the second reader. So if he's not able to join by then, you'll become the first reader. And then we'll open it up to the discussion for full panel. We won't have a second reader. And I admitted a 574 number in there. Yes, it's muted. He needs to unmute that line.
And now it's Ellen. I'm getting noise from both the phone and.
Okay, it's still got terrible feedback for him, so yeah. Okay, well, I think we're just gonna have to get started. And hopefully, yeah, I'm not sure if Ken's gonna be able to participate in this. Bummer. So let's go ahead. Alberta, I am going to admit the rest of the folks into the room, and then you can kick off the public meeting. Sound good?
Sure.
Started.
Do you want me to go ahead and get started then?
Okay, hold on just one second. I'm gonna try, tell him I'm gonna manually unmute him. Ken, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes, great.
You can. Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Way to go, everybody. High five. High five whoever's in the room with you. Okay, perfect. All right, everybody. And we're gonna get started. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm admitting everyone.
Okay, this is a public meeting of the Indiana Arts Commission, Arts in the Parks and Historic Sites 2019, Advisory Review Panel Organizations number 1. I am Alberta Barker, Commissioner from Lafayette. Today is November 5th, and we are meeting by conference call and streaming live from a webinar. We welcome applicants who may be listening in today and would like to remind you that you are muted for this review. There is no direct contact or conversation about the evaluation and disposition of applications before, during, or after the panel meeting. Now we'll begin the panel review. This is how the process will work. I will announce the application we will review and ask the first reader to begin the discussion. The first reader will provide their assessment of the application based upon the evaluation criteria and their perspective. Panelists, please note that the applications do not need to be recapped since everyone has read it. Just provide your comments. After the first reader is finished, I will ask the second reader to present any new, additional, or opposing comments. We are not looking for consensus, just a full evaluation from the different perspectives panelists bring to the table. After the second reader has finished, I will open the discussion for final comments. Remember, in the interest of time, we are only looking for new, additional, or opposing viewpoints. If a panelist has a conflict of interest, that panelist will be placed on hold while the application is reviewed. Finally, once the application has been reviewed by the full panel, we ask the panel to update their scores in the online system. It is common for scores to change as a result of this broader discussion. These scores save automatically. Are there any questions?
No.
If not, let's begin. We'll start with the application from Big Car Collaborative.
Oops,
Kip
sorry,
has
Alberta.
declared a conflict of interest, so he's put on hold.
Sorry, Alberta, we need to do introductions of the panelists first.
I'm sorry, I thought we already did that.
We need to do it for the public record. We'd started the public meeting.
Okay, I apologize.
No problem.
Okay, so we would like the panelists and staff to introduce themselves, stating their name, occupation, and where they're from in the state. Shall we begin with Kip?
Yes, my name is Kip Norman. I'm an artist and historian living and working in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Kara?
Kara Wood. I am the Director of Events for the City of South Bend's Venues, Parks, and Arts. I live and work here in South Bend.
Chris?
My name is Chris Petrelli. I'm the Director of Museum Experiences at Conner Prairie. I am in Fishers, Indiana.
Meg?
I'm Meg Roman. I'm the Executive Director of the Miller Beach Arts and Creative District, which is in Gary, Indiana.
Ken? Ken?
I can just barely hear if you're talking to me. I don't know. What happened. I was getting the audio fine, and then it's real weak now, and I can't make out the words.
Okay, we're just asking for an introduction. Ken, are you there?
Looks like we've lost him. So we'll admit him back into the room when he is back. So we'll move on.
Okay, Anna?
I'm Anna Tragister. I'm the Artist and Community Services Manager at the Indiana Arts Commission.
Okay. Well, thank you all. We will start with the application from Big Car Collaborative. Kip has declared a conflict of interest, so he's been put on hold. The first reader is Kara.
Yeah, I would like to go ahead. I'm just going to address first the feasibility. The grant application was incredibly complete in the description, the purpose, the intent of the execution, both physically and financially. All of that evidence was there. Staff is experienced and capable with a proven record of successfully engaging with the general public with the Wagon of Wonders. An artistic asset like this, really looking at this program, they included so much information and so much detail that it's one of those things that you all of a sudden wish you could actually be there and participate, which is meaningful. So to have an asset like the Wagon of Wonders programming within Turkey Run State Park is a beautiful match of needs and wants and the natural resources. One of the things I'm just going to skip all the way down to this for sake of time. They submitted several photos, and what I noticed in the photos was the age differences and the activity differences. So it addresses multiple things here throughout the application about inclusivity and diversity, making sure that people are included. And I think that the photos they submitted were a beautiful, beautiful display of that.
Thank you, Kara. The second reader is Chris.
I agree with most of Kara's comments. I thought it was a very complete application. A couple of things I might add are that the metrics, success metrics weren't especially called out. I think it would have been more helpful for me if we had better insight into what would actually denote success. Like, so for example, they talk about engaging visitors and purchasing disposable cameras and field recording equipment, but we don't actually know, what the number of participants that they're looking for, given, the throughput of the project and the length of stay of the visitor park. Also, another point that I would add is, they indicate in the application that the timing of the project coincides with the organization's corporate retreat. And I just wondered whether the timing was chosen to optimize the success of the project or whether it was chosen because it was more convenient to the organization. So I would have maybe liked to seen why they chose that particular time of year and why it was relevant to the success of the project. But overall, I definitely thought that it was a strong application.
Thank you, Chris. Any new, additional, or opposing comments?
One thing this is Kara, one thing I wanted to mention because I really liked this point was The questions on the survey that they used to measure the success as far as the interaction between those who actually participated. The questions were, did you have a conversation with someone new today? So it's talking about, being emotionally engaging. How often does art impact you emotionally? Do you feel safe at today's event? So that's something that we need to address more and more, is just the basic need of safety at events. So I really appreciated those questions specifically, so that the participants could give some really good, honest feedback.
Thank you, Kara. Are there any other comments?
No, I thought this was a terrific project. This is Ken.
Okay. Well, please finalize your scores and update your online comments. Let me know if you need more time.
Okay, and Kip is back in the room.
Okay. The next application then is with Brick Street Poetry, and the first reader is Ken.
And you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. I'll try to make this short in case something gets cut off. But Brick Street Poetry is requesting funds to present outstanding poets accompanied by musicians in a new musical composition entitled Avian Suite. And it's going to include poems intertwined with music that are inspired by the birds of Prophetstown State Park, outdoors overlooking the prairie where the birds live. Really cool. It looks like Brick Street has had an Arts in the Park project before, and it went successfully. They have the composer on board, Rebecca Archibald, and they're going to combine 6 original poems with a new musical competition, which I thought was really innovative and really cool. They do mention, and this was a more of a suggestion for strengthening the proposal in the future. They say they're going to work with some of Indiana's best poets, and we know who the composer is going to be, but we're not really told who the poets are going to be. Now I know, or it seems Brick Street is a poetry collaborative. I'm not familiar with it, and so I don't have any doubt that they'll bring in some of the best poets. But I think it would have helped the proposal if they had named some of them and where they published or what poems they're known for. I think that would have made it a little bit stronger. In terms of the public benefit and community impact, they say some of the outreach they're going to do is they'll contact Native American groups. I would have liked to have seen some more detail on how they'll reach them exactly, rather than just to say that they will contact them. It was just a little bit too vague. And then finally, just one final suggestion would be to be sure to proofread the application before submitting it, because there were a number of careless typos, and they it kind of diminishes the proposal's impact. But I like, it's a fine project though. I liked it a lot. So I say that just to get the discussion started.
Well, thank you, Ken. The second reader is Kip.
Thank you. I absolutely agreed with Ken's points. All of them were what my interests and concerns with this application. But I do have one thing to add. In their budget, the largest expense in this project is to pay the composer for this original composition, and I wondered if it might, if they had considered the idea of doing something that was more improvisationally based, that might allow them to free up resources to pay musicians, or to invest more resources to actively engage the Native American groups. That was my one additional concern.
Thank you, Kip. Are there any new, additional, or opposing comments?
I just have one very small housekeeping type of comment. I almost discounted the wide range of diversity included in this project because it wasn't mentioned specifically in the public benefit section. And later on, when I read the artistic quality, I saw. So just to make sure that you don't get scored less than you should because you didn't specifically answer the question in the right section. I know it sounds picky, but when you're reading lots and lots and lots of grants and you aren't familiar with the project or the organization, it's easy to lose things if they're not in the right place.
Thank you for that.
Another thing I might add is that the budget calls for $180 to in promotional and advertising expenses, and it's not clear on the number of people that they're hoping to attract, and I could use a little bit more information on whether how they feel $180 is sufficient to support, is adequate to achieve whatever goal that they're trying to achieve from an attendance standpoint. Also, just one other quick comment. They do say that the project is appropriate for all ages, but it does seem fairly sophisticated, and I'm curious how they feel it might be engaging to children whose attention spans might be a little bit less than older adults.
This is Kara. I have one other, it's sort of a suggestion or something that I would like them to consider. Because the main form of interaction of this programming is listening, so whether it's the composer with the music, or you also have people reading poems, if this group has thought about bringing someone in to sign for when we're talking about the inclusion of underserved populations, it's not out of the question, even though the music can't be heard, and if there's no music, how do you sign if there's no words? But if you have a poet reading aloud, that is something where if you have someone there signing, that you can bring in an entirely different demographic of residents that otherwise wouldn't be able to enjoy this, because they still have the visual of the park, and so they can kind of pull and maybe imagine when they read or are signed the words to the poems at the park.
Are there any other comments? If not, please finalize your scores and update your online comments.
Just a reminder, thank you. You guys are doing a great job. You don't need to summarize the application. Just jump into your comments on how it did or did not meet the review criteria. And if you can, please mute yourself when you're not speaking. We are getting just a little bit of background noise. Thank you, guys.
And let me know if you need more time. And if not, we will move on to the next application from Evansville Philharmonic Orchestral Corporation, with the first reader being Meg.
Yes, just one moment, please. Okay. Okay. So one comment is, given that the project summary is suggested that it might also be used for marketing, if it was a little bit more compelling to let the reader know why they should be attending this, what's interesting or unique about this particular concert, that would be helpful. It sounds like a great project, and obviously everybody knows what it is since it's a Philharmonic concert. But talking about the, oh, sorry, let me start over. Okay, so including public figures and radio personnel to draw and market the project is really great. And as is including middle and high school participants. It sounds like there's been a lot of very successful events in the past, but the information seems to be a bit more about what happens in the past as opposed to this current project. Adding more information about why this particular project is important and fleshing out the project management portion a little bit, in addition to just talking about the marketing, who will be implementing the project, what specifically needs to be done to manage and implement it, and how that would be done would be helpful. The data about the venue paints a great picture of the site. But again, adding more information about how this specific project would integrate with the site would answer the question a little bit more succinctly. And I was personally a little confused about the $15,000 income for the Lincoln Amphitheater contract fee. To me, that seems like an expense, not an income item. So if there was some more wording around that to help the reader understand what exactly that is. The next section on the cultural asset. Okay, it would be good to hear a little bit more about how the project celebrates the uniqueness of the natural environment, as well as interaction and feedback from the site staff. In terms of public benefit, it's commendable that they're working with musicians from nearby schools, and the tribute to the armed forces is a great touch. In addition to that, it would be interesting to see who else they're outreaching to, especially from the underserved populations, would strengthen that section. Further down, it mentions several organizations under this umbrella organization, such as youth orchestras, young artist competitors, preschoolers. If they are going to be participating in this project, talking about them a little bit more in the benefit to the community would be warranted. And finally, the 84 years of existence is obviously a great indicator of success. And the extensive educational component sounds like it's a quite well-rounded project, as does the goal of including people outside of the Evansville area. A little bit more information on the experience of the people actually implementing the project would round this out a bit, as would explain the artistic significance of the project. In general, it sounds like a great event, but somebody who is unfamiliar with the organization, the project, or the community would need a little bit more information to go on to fully understand the impact of the project.
Thank you, Meg. The second reader is Kara.
Yes, I'm going to echo a little bit of what Meg said as far as it felt like there were a lot of broad descriptions included. So what I would have liked to see, even just in the feasibility area, is not assuming that we know what's going on and giving us more of the how of the project. I come into this and I know nothing. Even if I do, I have to kind of look at this and use a clean slate and try to see, is the information that's been given in the grant application thorough for what is being asked? And I would like to see less assumed and more actual detail given to outline the cultural asset and natural environmental impact. Details simple, coming from an event background. Details like, well, the wine tasting that's happening, are they going to be using recyclable cups? Are there going to be specific garbage containers for those, or is it, you know, otherwise those things end up in the park. So we thought about that. Is alcohol allowed anywhere in the park? So if you are even doing a wine tasting, how is this being secured in one area? Do you have people walking all over the park with alcohol? And so normally that would need like a beer garden or fenced area with a security guard. Some information was given about the amphitheater in the previous section before the impact on the cultural asset. But are there, let me look. They talk about the previous performances, which you get an idea that this is a very successful program and they're good at indicating that success. But I just felt like there was quite a bit that I was left guessing on with the programming, even being more specific about the getting, they just said something about setting a date and getting it on everyone's calendars. So to be more specific about the details of when this is happening and the logistics that are going to go into executing the experience. And one thing Meg said was when she was asking about the number on the financials about, it's my understanding that those are tickets. There are tickets that are being sold. And so they are actually bringing in income from that. Again, some of this I felt like I was guessing, but if that's the case, so if tickets are sold and this isn't something that's provided to residents at free of cost to come in and be a spectator, I want to know, is there a plan for them to provide a certain number of tickets at reduced rates or incorporate the use of perhaps a sliding scale? Because there are going to be people who are not going to be able to afford the ticket to come in and see this. Are people in the park encouraged to listen even if they have not paid for a seat? So we all know our public parks or our state parks, people just kind of happen along things. So how is that handled? Is it an area where they're completely blocked off from everyone else? Is the amphitheater location only accessible to those who have purchased a ticket, essentially? It sounds like a wonderful, unique experience and would be nice to see more of the direct effort to incorporate an inclusive spirit by actually creating a program that would accommodate those with hardship due to geography, ethnicity, economics, disability. But other than that, yeah, sounds like a great program. I felt like I was left guessing on quite a few of the details.
Thank you, Kara. Are there any new, additional, or opposing comments? If not, please finalize your scores and update your online comments. And let me know if you need more time.
I have a question for finalizing our scores. Does that mean if we're changing them? Because I'm not seeing anything that says finalized score.
And sorry, you might have missed this in the earlier reminders. So recommend that you have your online system pulled up right now on your computer, not Zoom, but the in.gov/arts/apply, where you scored everything.
Right.
And you can change the scores that you initially put in based on some of the things that you hear and process in this conversation. So
right.
I'm giving
So
you the chance to do that
if I don't change it, then I don't need to do anything there.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The next application is Fine Arts Society of Indianapolis doing business as Classical Music Indy, and Kip is the first reader.
Okay. This organization has been active in the Indianapolis area for many decades, promoting classical music appreciation and development of new compositions and performances around the city of Indianapolis. And their proposal to do a three concert series in Fort Harrison Park in the one of the smaller pavilions there. I think they're proposing a sort of a very intimate concert that would not be amplified, 3 to 4 musicians, but they're also providing this very interesting audience engagement aspect targeted primarily to children. I think that it's a good project. It's certainly very well presented, and I appreciated their detailed description in their budget and also in their feasibility section. The public benefit is the one question I had regarding this project was because of the small scale of the project and the small expectation for attendance. I think it will be a very interesting program, but I'm not sure that that's a very strong public benefit. Otherwise, I thought that everything else about it was really well done. That's all.
Thank you, Kip. The second reader is Meg.
I thought this was an incredibly well-written and comprehensive application. It hit on all of the key things that were asked. It directly answered every single question in all of the sections. It not only talked about the project, but it talked about the collaboration with the site. And I mean collaboration, not just communication, because there's a big difference. It was very clear what the project is, who it's for. I like that it's an Indiana artist. They talked about truly celebrating and the park, and there's a very clear social connection with the park. It's very clear how the participants will be engaged and that they're using local artists. They integrate very well the goals of the project with the goals of the park, and that it's not just appreciation of music or art, but an appreciation of the nature and the natural environment. So the weaving in of the artistic part with the environmental part is excellent. There's a high educational component and very, very clear interactive learning opportunities. They talk about how to engage with all kinds of people, including providing transportation and vouchers for people who might not be able to come and participate. The detailed section was the planning section was incredibly detailed, as were the evaluation tools, including that they're incorporating things that they've learned from the past. The cultural section, where they talk about the benefits to the community, was very clear and well thought out. Again, including not just the project, but the impact on the site, and to the extent that they even listed the names and the titles of the staff from the site. So along with the goals and evaluation tools. So it's very clear that they didn't just say, we want to have an event in a park. They asked the park what they wanted. They made sure that it was something that the park was interested in doing and that fit the mission of the park. The artistic quality section was very comprehensive and, again, quite well thought out. Lots of participatory and learning skills, art skills, as well as appreciation for the natural environment. I actually found it difficult to find much of improvement, but I'll throw one in because it's for balance. I would suggest, even though it is reaching out to quite a large group of people, possibly finding more ways of attracting participants with disabilities and expanding the outreach even further to that population. Very well done and very professional, and hit on all of the things that the IAC was asking for.
Thank you, Meg. Are there any new, additional, or opposing comments?
This is Kara. The one thing I wanted to mention overall that really stuck out to me was this organization specified their relationship with youth serving partners and the amount of community building that went into that. It's an excellent representation of matchmaking within a community with partners, building community for the benefit of the actual participants, and that was very clear here.
Thank you, Kara. Any other comments? If not, please finalize your scores and update your online comments. And let me know if you need more time.
I just wanted to clarify, I don't think this is what you guys were, some of you were going for, but there is no requirement for specific number or size and audience or reach in the criteria.
Okay, that's helpful to know.
Anything else? Okay, please finalize your scores. The next application is Fort Wayne Youtheatre, and Chris is the first reader.
Yeah, so I felt that they made a successful case of justifying the feasibility of the project. They've successfully produced similar projects in the past for which they received Arts in the Park funding. They demonstrated that they've improved on successes and challenges of past experiences, which I thought was very strong. And I found their budget to be very specific and clearly identified what expenses would be necessary to produce the program. I thought that the program overall effectively aligned as well with, and I won't pronounce this right, is it Obaki State Park?
Wabash. You wouldn't think it, but it's pronounced Wabash.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, the Wabash State Park's natural assets. I liked how the program felt very integrated into the park and integrated with Indiana folk tales and local legends. So I thought that really added a connection to the actual natural environment. And they also demonstrated a collaborative process with the park and its staff. So a couple of other items, I thought that they effectively provided statistics to demonstrate how the program addressed underserved audiences. I thought the marketing plan was a little bit general. I thought they could have done a somewhat clearer job in identifying who the target audience was and how the marketing plan was actually going to reach that specific audience. But overall, I felt that this was a well-justified, well-constructed application.
Thank you, Chris. The next reader is Ken.
Yeah, I pretty much echo most of what Chris says. I like this a lot. I love the way that they are integrating nature stories from local lore, as well as with Aesop's fables and others in their theatrical performances in the park. I just thought that was really cool. On the public benefit and community impact, I also thought their post-production activities were good too and solid, and I like to see that. So I thought this was a strong proposal.
Thank you, Ken. Are there any other comments?
This is Kara. The one thing I wanted to mention, coming from kind of that government point of view and being used to having to be really frugal with the use of taxpayer dollars, I always look really closely at the budgets. And I would like to suggest to them that they investigate the option of incorporating one or more volunteer groups to help with painting, check to see if there is a partner organization from whom they can borrow ladders, some of that, maybe that capital investment. They've been doing this, so I don't know if those things exist or if they're just now purchasing those. If they don't already have those, is there opportunity for in-kind sponsorship from Arts United for use of the rehearsal room for something like this? Because that was a pretty significant expense. I think there's just more that could be explored to cut the budget cost without sacrificing the actual integrity of the program.
Thank you, Kara. Are there any other comments?
I appreciated how in their marketing they specifically pointed out that they would thank the site and the funders.
Thank you. If there aren't any other comments, please finalize your scores and update your online comments. And let me know if you need additional time. If not, we will move on to Friends of McCormick's Creek State Park with Kara being the first reader.
Kara, you are on mute.
I want to take that off. This was a very detailed application as far as the support of how the applicant demonstrates achievable goals and potential for project success. McCormick's Creek State Park is Indiana's oldest park, and the applicant values bringing arts back to the state parks. Activities are hands-on. They use a variety of music, styles, and expression in a beautiful environment made for a program such as this. The outdoor amphitheater, shelter houses, and an interpretive center cater to the artistic performances while having minimal impact on the state park staff. It is very apparent that they work closely with the staff, that they are willing to take feedback and as they move forward in the future years. I enjoyed reading the part of the evaluation process. It's actually that they're actually speaking with attendees in order to find that public benefit community impact, not just trying to get people to rate the program. It is clear that they're open to how the program can be made better, and they intend to continue providing a valuable experience at the park. As far as artistic quality, I appreciate the event flyer actually being attached to the application so I could see that. It supports what's outlined in the marketing efforts. Working closely with Sam Arthur is an excellent way to be innovative in what is being programmed and also keep the program diverse.
Thank you, Kara. The second reader is Kip.
I thought they did it's a proposal for the two festivals that have been ongoing for a number of years. So they obviously have experience putting these things together. I really appreciated their emphasis on a broad range of artistic content, with the traditional arts being combined with the art fair is especially nice. And then later on, the blues and barbecue component. I thought that was a great way to attract a broad range of people with broad interests. So I thought that was the aspect of this project that appealed to me most. That's all I have.
Thank you. Did you have anything else to add, Kip?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? Hearing none, please finalize your scores and update your online comments. The next application is with Friends of Potato Creek State Park, with Chris being the first reader.
Yeah, so further to the feasibility justification, I thought while the applicant doesn't necessarily present prior history of producing events like this, they did demonstrate organizational stability and showed an effort to create community partnership that I thought was useful in its ability to execute the program. I felt that they might have improved the project management aspect of the application by describing a little bit more of the experience of the program managers. They state that they are experienced with planning and implementing programs and special events, but they don't necessarily go into a whole lot of detail as to whether or not they are capable of managing or planning a program that is on par with the one that they've proposed. So if they could in some way show how the program manager's past experience correlates with the proposed program, I think that would be useful in demonstrating feasibility. I thought that it did a great job of effectively aligning key aspects of Potato Creek State Park, like the Porter Ray Cemetery and the IVA status, with the artistic expression. I think they made a strong case that the concert series will be an instrument for connecting visitors to the park and the arts. I also felt that they adequately demonstrated how they were going to engage underserved youth and people with disabilities. I did find, again, the marketing plan just to be a little bit general, that it didn't lack, or it lacked rather, a budget line item. And they suggested they have $300 in free advertising and PSAs, but it's unclear again as to whether or not that's going to be sufficient to generate the audience that they anticipate for the program. I also finally thought they might have gone a little bit further into the selection process for the musicians. So they state that the musicians are going to be, it's going to be a diverse collection of genres, but they don't really indicate how those musicians will be selected. And so I thought it would help to demonstrate the quality of the musicianship if they were to talk a little bit more about the selection and vetting process. That's it.
Thank you, Chris. Second reader is Peg.
Yes, I think the summary was excellent. It explained that the project encompasses hands-on experiences, cultural diversity, and a variety of genres and activities, and that it's targeted to park members, as well as the fact that they've done significant outreach to those who don't traditionally visit the park. It definitely integrates the mission of the park with the project, bringing in new visitors, as well as providing the visitors with significant benefits. I particularly thought the explanation of what the visitors will see as they enter helped visualize what the event will look like. The project includes a very interesting set of musical genres, especially the celebration and inclusion of Native American and African American themes, music, culture, and participants. Collaborating with local artists, teachers, and community event leaders makes this a very well-rounded project. And I was glad to see that the in-kind income was included in the budget. I think we often minimize that, and I think most projects probably include more of that than we usually put down on paper. For the cultural asset and natural environment, it's very clear the significance of this particular site for this project and how key features of the park have been incorporated into the project. It not only reaches out to a broad range of participants, but also a broad range of artists, and includes a lot of interactive activities. Clearly, the site staff has been fully engaged and are working alongside on the project, and significant attention has been paid to the impact on the site itself. The interactive art projects combined with the music looks like it will really engage as many people as possible and celebrate the significant aspects of the park and the community. The desire to engage multi-generations and underserved populations, including people with disabilities, is commendable, especially reaching out to community and social service agencies. The project employs a breadth of marketing locations, organizations, and media outlets, and the fact that they asked students and schools what they wanted, rather than just providing what they thought they wanted was great. I would have, since the artists haven't been hired yet, it would have been helpful to see some flyers or photos of past events so that we could help understand better the artistic quality of the project. That sums it up.
Thank you, Meg. Are there any other comments?
This is Ken. I just want to add to what Meg said at the very end there, that we don't really know who the musical groups are going to be. They're still in the process of getting ready to contact some. And I agree with all the positive evaluations of this. This is, I thought this was a wonderful proposal in so many ways, but for future reference, I think they would, and I believe this is their first proposal of this group, the Friends of Potato Creek State Park, to this program. So for future purposes, I would highly recommend that they contact some of the musicians beforehand and name some of them if some of them have expressed interest, you know, even if they're not contracted yet or anything, but certainly tell us some of the ones they would have, and if they've had other groups there in the past, tell us so that we can get a sense of, yeah, the quality of the artists who are going to be there. So that would be my recommendation to them.
Thank you, Ken. Are there any other comments?
This is Kara. Throughout, I will say I do agree with what the other panelists have shared. One thing I would have really liked to have seen in the project expense detail is when we look at the cost is $1,800 for the musician fees for 4 concerts, but then there are also, it's $800 listed for the artist fees and $400 listed for art supplies for the activities. So I'm guessing those, with that $800 and $400, that's $1,200 of the $3,000 being requested that's going into the pre-event activities. And so looking throughout the proposal, I see the term artistic activities, and they do mention like focusing on unique bird habitats. They also say pre-concert activities multiple times. They reference that, you know, some of those will have just historical significance, but I would like to see that budget broken down more. If that much of the budget is going towards the pre-event activities where people are actually getting their hands on things, that's one of the things I look for, is how is the crowd able to participate? So if all of that participation is happening, the hands-on is happening before the event takes place, or that's leading into it, I would like to see a more detailed budget instead of like words like artistic activities or pre-event activities. They list some supplies just in general, but no cost and what those are actually going towards. And so it's really important that we know what those are. So I encourage them to be more detailed when it comes to that expense sheet.
Thank you, Kara. Are there any comments? If not, please finalize your scores and update your online comments. The next application is with Friends of Shakamak, with Ken being the first reader.
Okay, I liked this proposal a lot. There are two aspects to it. both of which I liked a lot. One was the outreach to elementary age children and individuals with special needs. And then the second was the concerts that they will have. I believe they call it the Christmas in July, and then the Fall Festival concerts, and in which they feature local artists or homegrown talent, which I thought that's terrific that they're doing that. The Friends of Shakamak, is that the right word?
Shakamak.
Shakamak. They've done this before, and so they have experience in how to make it work. There was, if there was, you know, maybe a weakness, they haven't selected their musicians yet, so it's difficult to assess the quality. Although they do mention some previous musical groups that have participated in this program, and they also show that they have clear criteria and a selection process for selecting them. So I was somewhat reassured on that. But I thought that the proposal would have been a little bit stronger if they had at least identified some of the musicians that they intend to contact for this coming season.
Thank you, Ken. The second reader is Kara.
What I value about this application is seeing the in-kind volunteer hours listed. Volunteers are an invaluable asset, and they're many times not utilized or not even considered. Sometimes it's whether they're willing to have volunteers come in, or it's sort of like, are you going to let your children fold the towels even if it's not exactly how you would have folded the towels? But the utilization of volunteers is also a great community building tool. They'll have contact with the staff, with the park site staff, possibly even the board of directors. You never know, you know, as you're putting in those volunteer hours, who you're going to meet. And the one other thing I wanted to mention was I would be interested in knowing the response rate of the surveys that are collected via SurveyMonkey. So that's something new that I appreciate, is using SurveyMonkey, but what is that response rate?
Thank you, Kara. Are there any other comments?
Yeah, this is Ken. I would just agree with Kara on that. I did note that down about the SurveyMonkey. I wondered if there couldn't be something, you know, in the park itself, you know, just a written evaluation or something, because I mean, they're gonna take names and email addresses, but it's, yeah, I don't know how many people will actually respond later on to that SurveyMonkey.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? If not, please finalize your scores and update your online comments. And moving on with the next application is IndyBaroque music, with Meg being the first reader.
There was a great explanation as to why these particular sites were chosen. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more detail about specific activities, goals, and key dates involved in this particular project. Even though it was described a little bit in later sections, it's not clear from this section how comprehensive and educational the project actually is. The section was designed to capture the nitty-gritty of the project, and I didn't see it until later on, and may have not scored as highly because I didn't see it where I was expecting to see it. The cultural aspects of the project had a very rich explanation of the significance of the sites, which was really compelling and made the reader, or me, really want to be a part of this project. So that came through. It's quite evident that the site staff has been fully engaged and that their feedback has been incorporated into the project. the explanation about the speaking parts, how the participants will learn about music, the period, as well as the history of the area was excellent. It's clear why people should be drawn to this event and what they can expect to get out of it. I think the project could be even more successful if there was more outreach to underserved communities in some of the categories other than just ages. Children, seniors, and adults were mentioned, but I didn't see anything about different ethnicities or cultures, trying to reach urban populations, things of that nature. And the artistic quality was very detailed with a compelling list of accomplishments and qualities, so that was a strength of the application.
Thank you, Meg. Second reader is Chris.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what Meg just said. A couple of concerns of mine were that I thought that a disproportionate amount of the budget went to artist fees, so that concerned me just a bit. I also thought it could be made a little bit stronger by describing what elements of Indiana's history they were going to, try to tell. Indiana's history is obviously very broad and varied, and it's not clear based on the application how all of their, their musical performances and this spoken word narrative are going to come together to tell a cohesive story. So I think it felt a little bit more conceptual, and I would appreciate it. I think it would have been helpful for me if it was that aspect was a little bit more fleshed out. I also thought that the application could benefit from describing a little bit more how similar projects have brought value to communities. They've made some claims in the application, like, from the reaction of our audiences, children and adults, students and teachers, we are convinced of the high quality and accessibility of our community engagement activities. But they don't really back that up with statistics or survey results. So they just sort of exist as claims, and it would be useful if you're making that level of claim to say, to use some metrics that support that in some way. So that's what I would add.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any new, additional, or opposing comments?
This is Kara. One of the things I want to, I thought this was an excellent application. The process of having to register online, I think, should be further explored. Again, coming from the event side of things, knowing that there are, when we talk about including underserved demographics, when you think about those who may not have access to a computer, is everyone, or are we ruling out people that could or would otherwise be involved but aren't able to register online? It sounds like people can just walk in, but I'm not sure from the explanation in participant tracking if this is encouraged or not encouraged. So it definitely seems like it's the online registration that is encouraged, and I was left a little, the rest of it was left a little bit vague as far as how are other people able to participate and be part of this.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? If not, please finalize your scores and update your online comments. The next application is Jackson County Community Theater, with Kip being the first reader.
Okay, I'm still working on that last one. Pardon me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I think I have a misunderstanding. I was under the impression that I was the first reader on the Fort Wayne Philharmonic Patriotic Pops application, not the one you just stated.
You're the first reader for Jackson County Community Theater as well. At least that's what's on my notes. And Ken is the second reader for that.
Okay, I will admit I am not prepared to act as the first reader on this one. I do apologize.
Okay. Ken, do you want to go ahead then?
Well, okay, you put me on the spot, Kev.
I'm very sorry.
Okay, well, we'll have to switch it later, a later proposal maybe.
You guys
Just
got
kidding.
this. Just share
Just
your
kidding.
main thoughts, and then we'll add in the whole.
Yeah. Well, this is the All the World's a Stage Summer Youth Workshop, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The applicant has done this successfully in the past, and the park manager seems very supportive. It's the project is, under public benefit and community impact. It seems that the project is very participatory from the get-go for both kids and their parents. I wrote down in my notes, gee, I wish this were close enough for my grandkids to participate in this. It just seems like a really terrific project to do. The one thing, I mean, this is kind of a minor thing, but the one thing in the proposal that could have been explained a bit better was how the different children's tours of the forest, which is wonderful, are going to get translated into props and scenes.
Mm.
That sounds really interesting, but I just wanted to know, okay, well, what's the process? How is that done? Other than, well, okay, they see some trees and then they, draw on a large piece of paper a tree for a prop, but I didn't know if there was something more unique than that or what. And it piqued my interest enough that, the way they described it, that I wanted to know more about that. But overall, I like this a lot. And that's all.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Kip, do you have any comments to add?
I thought that it does a nice job of tying in the environment to the subject matter and engaging the participants to relate to the natural assets of the park. And I also thought that their proposal as far as the budget was nicely detailed, and I don't have anything more to add.
Okay, thank you, Kip. Does anyone else have any comments to add?
This is Kara. I would like to add a few comments. Some of them are just out of appreciation. The one thing I did appreciate was the detail by the applicant when explaining the various ways that children will be exposed and invited to participate in the arts. I can see this program easily being inclusive to all skill ranges, which is very important, and to be something that children of all social backgrounds feel welcome to participate in. Prior experience proves the organization will be able to successfully implement the project. I want to recognize the efforts planned by this organization in order to have minimal impact on the Indiana State Historic Site or DNR staff and property. Even the little things like physically removing the trash themselves after programming are the things that ease the impact on site staff and ensure the trash doesn't end up all over the park. The organization was clear that they would rather see impact fall upon themselves rather than on the site or the site staff. I appreciate that level of responsibility from an applicant. Use of volunteers will also ease the burdens that may have otherwise been put on the actual site staff. There's no charge for participants, and so what I appreciate is that fosters a spirit of inclusion, as does the JCCT partners, how they partner with county schools, Girls Inc., the Boys and Girls Club, and the Kids Club to reach a diverse and potentially underserved population. I felt excited about this, the same as what Ken mentioned, is this is something when you have a reader who feels excited about the program, you can only imagine how the actual participants and the audience members would feel being a part of this. And I appreciate that JCCT would be willing to fill the current production manager position with either a current participant or a parent. So that's giving an opportunity that may not otherwise have been had. The rest of the staff is fully trained, and you know that if you give someone an opportunity to kind of step up their responsibility, you never know what that's going to do for someone. So whether it's a parent or a current participant, I thought that was neat that they were willing to kind of at least can take that into consideration. I thought, yeah, other than that, I just had positive things to say.
Okay, thank you, Kara. Are there any other comments? If not, please finalize your scores and update your online comments. Our next application is Monroe County Civic Theater, and Kara is the first reader.
Okay, I am still jumping over that one. Give me just a second.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, the experience of those overseeing this program is evident, and how it is being interwoven into the park system is unique. The variety of non-traditional arts that will be displayed is fascinating. The applicant is confident that there will be little to no negative natural environmental impact. There is an amphitheater in the park that is designed for this sort of performance, and the theatrical company has all of the necessary equipment. Sam Arthur has been consulted, and he is in agreement that the location for the presentation or for this program is perfect within the surroundings of the park. It is good to know that there will be no roadblocks in the way of having audience members with physical limitations be able to attend. They were very thorough about that. The variety of talent showcased is impressive, especially for being performed outdoors. That would be truly a unique opportunity for the community to be part of. Are there ways that the underserved populations could be pulled in for participation within the actual theater company? So I know that expands a little bit outside of the actual application, but it just, seeing that sparked that question in my head. Are there fees to participate in the company, or would there be opportunities for that to be more inclusive, so that if someone that was watching the production then wanted to be part of that, is that a possibility, or how inclusive is that, or how realistic is them becoming a part of that? I would suggest possibly enlisting help of someone to sign for those. I know I mentioned this earlier in another application, to have someone that to sign for those who may either be hard of hearing or are completely deaf. The more this production gears itself towards feeling and looking like every demographic, the more inclusive it will become to underserved populations. And that in itself is going to be one of the most rewarding efforts that an organization can put in its time and energy into. As far as artistic quality, experience of staff and participants is evident within the explanation of artistic personnel. They provided photos that were intriguing. It actually gave me the ability to see firsthand what a production in the woods might look like, because otherwise I was kind of wondering and trying to piece that together. It's very creative. It's clear to me that there has been a great amount of time and care put into the planning of the production, and the partners are incredibly talented artists. Very well done.
Thank you, Kara. Second reader is Meg.
Yes. Overall, the project looks like it's very professionally done, that it would be a lot of fun. It's very interesting, great setting. It's very clear that the park is a good setting for the project, but I didn't see much in the way of how the park itself would benefit, or how the project would integrate with the mission and the goals of the park. I also didn't see much on explaining how it would be beneficial to, from a cultural perspective, or that there was much engagement with the site staff. Yeah, those are my comments.
Okay, thank you, Meg. Are there any other comments? Okay, if not, please finalize your scores and update your online comments. Our next application is with Northwest Indiana Excellence in Theater Foundation, and Chris is the first reader.
So I felt that they have a strong track record of having produced the program in the past, and they included a very strong letter of support from the park administrator. So I felt that they were clearly capable of reproducing the event as they had described. I did feel that they could have gone into a little bit more detail with respect to their success criteria and what constituted success. They could have showed how the Arts in the Park grant will help them build upon where they left off in the past. And I also felt that they could use, they could have gone into a little bit more depth describing how the program, how the project would promote the use of the park outside of attending these specific productions. They could have, in turn, also talked a little bit more about how they were going to target specific audiences, especially underserved audiences. They didn't go into a whole lot of detail as to who the audiences might be outside of park goers and who don't go to the theater, and theater goers who don't go to the park. But they also have exhibited a pretty strong resume and longevity of producing theatrical programs. And they have an impressive roster of members that, again, demonstrate that they're capable of executing the event.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Ken is the second reader.
Yeah, this is a regular event. So, I mean, clearly they can pull this together, and, you know, the park strongly supports it. I think probably this is at the Indiana Dunes, right? So, I mean, I think there's always going to be a potentially large audience for that. You know that, you know, probably even not without a lot of advertising, but there's always going to be people there. So I think I'm sure they get an audience. One thing that they mention in a couple of places is they talk about the beautiful surroundings and how they want to foster an integration of appreciation of the natural with the cultural, but they don't really say how they're going to go about doing that. And I wish they had, because that interests me a great deal. And then the plays themselves, there's a number of member theater groups that are involved in this, and they all look really good. But I wish they'd have said more about what plays they're going to present, or at least a representative sample of them. And then they could talk about how those plays tie into an integration of the natural and the cultural, you know, where appropriate. So, but this seems to me like it's going to be very successful. It has been in the past. So I like this.
Thank you, Ken. Are there any other comments? If not, please finalize your scores and update your online comments. Our next application is the Fort Wayne Philharmonic Orchestra, Inc., and the first reader is Kip.
Okay, this is a annual patriotic pops concert that has been going for over 20 years, and they have demonstrated their ability to to put this on very well. So I think that they were very strong in feasibility. The one aspect of this project that that concerned me a bit regarding our criteria was they explained that they would have very little negative impact on the park or the resources surrounding the park, but there's also not much actual engagement with nature programming that celebrates the park itself. And I think that was the one aspect that I found lacking in this application. I appreciate the importance of this concert to the community, and I think it's become an important and celebrated tradition. But I would like to see in the future them try to integrate something that addresses the natural environment in which the concert is presented. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Kip. Kara is the second reader.
Yeah, so the feasibility portion of the grant application, including the itemized budget, was very detailed and very well done. Ongoing success of this program is quite evident from what they have given us as evidence. The setup of the event is done in a way that highlights the park's natural beauty and encourages participation from audience members both in the park and anchored along the shoreline. So that's one thing I may disagree a little bit with, because the way that they have set this up not only allows people within the park to participate, but if there are boats docked along the shoreline or boats that are right out there, they can also participate. So that really highlights the fact that this park, it has the wooded area that we come to expect, but not all state parks maybe necessarily have the aspect of being able to program to people both on the ground and in the water. So that was something that was very unique that I really liked. Ongoing communication and past experience with park staff does ensure the minimal impact on site staff. It was helpful to see the statistics of program guests and get insight on their excitement about the performances. And as far as artistic quality, there were photos included it was the patriotic pops is what the photos were included of. And I was quite impressed with this.
Thank you, Kara. Are there any other comments?
I was just going to add that I think I could have seen a little bit more description in terms of how they were going to attract underserved audiences. I thought they could have possibly made the application stronger by presenting trend data on the audience demographics that they've collected over the years, and as well as emphasizing goals related to attracting different audience segments.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, please finalize your scores and update your online comments. And the last application is Windfall Dancers, Inc., and Ken is the first reader.
Okay, this is the Dance in the Park, which has been, they've held this for the last 3 years in the parks, and it's going to include workshops for what they say an all ages and all abilities workshop up to 3 state parks, in which the participants will be assisted with developing movement from inspiration from the unique features of the park. So I love that idea. The project management seemed sound to me. It was very detailed. They've given this a lot of thought. Let's see. Oh yeah, the troupe has several years of previous experience doing this, so they know what they're doing and how to make it work. They have strong letters from the park managers. And oh, the supplemental activities I liked also, the nature walks, the sketching, poetry writing, along with movement. I thought were very creative, and I thought children especially would really love that. So that's pretty much all I had to say.
Okay, thank you, Ken. The second reader is Kip.
I agree with Ken. I especially appreciated their attention to engagement with children, and I thought I thought that the artistic integrity of this project was especially nice. I did not have any additional comments after that.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? If not, please finalize your scores and update your online comments.
I think Kara had something she wanted to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kara.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to just throw in a couple of things. I would like to see more detail explained about what will happen this year, as opposed to referring so much to prior years and mentioning that the same program will be repeated. It was hard to score that section without specifics. So if I'm looking at the application overall, but looking at that specific section, I didn't have much to go off of. So making sure to give details about your program, not just talking about what's happened in the past and saying, oh, it's going to be the same. If I haven't participated, I'm not going to know what that means completely. So that made it hard for me to score that section specifically. So that's the one thing that I would like to add.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
I guess I would just build on that in terms of the public benefit and community impact. It mentions that it's for all people and that it's accessible to those with disabilities. But I would have liked a bit more detail about the types of people who would be participating and how they're going to attract people from different ethnicities or cultural communities. Whether there's an urban or a rural population that they're targeting. So just fleshing that out a little bit better to help us understand how they're doing their outreach.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments?
I'm going to jump in one more time. This is Kara. I was looking back through my comments. The other thing I would like to have more specifics on in the marketing aspect of the project are there specific newsletters? It mentions newsletters. So are there specific newsletters that they target, social media outlets or publications? Those are all mentioned, but not specifically. And which towns, they talk about posters. So which towns are posters actually being distributed to? So if we're trying to pull in as broad of a demographic, inclusive as a demographic as possible, where are those being distributed? Because I've seen it not in my previous role, but where I was prior to working for the city of South Bend, where posters are created and there's no plan for where they're going to go. So they go within like a 2-mile radius, a couple of them, and then the rest of them are still sitting in the trunk of someone's car. So to actually have a plan for those, where they're going to be distributed and who those are going to reach out to would be really helpful.
Thank you. Are there any other comments before we go on? If not, please finalize your scores and update your online comments. Does anyone need more time? If not, this concludes the Arts in the Parks and Historic Sites 2019 Organizations #1 Advisory Review Panel. Thank you all for your participation.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, at this time, I'm going to ask our guests to sign off. This recording will be available on the Arts in the Parks and Historic Sites webpage. And if the panelists, would you guys hang around for just a moment? Okay. So everybody left in the room is a panelist or staff. So I just want to say thank you one more time. You guys did an excellent job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This was a big task. So thank you. Chapin, will you stop recording? I don't know if you know how to do that. If it's on your, oh, actually I can do it. Never mind.
Off
Okay.
the record comments only.